Привіт, фанати мотоспорту! Вітаю вас на .gp, а може і не тільки на .gp, я не знаю, де це відео опиниться через тиждень, але so far .gp, і в нас в гостях, ви не повірите, людина, про яку я багато разів розповідала, Саймон Паттерсон. Зараз ми перейдемо на англійську, потім якось придумаємо субтитри, я думаю, все буде нормально, не зважайте на те, що будуть постійно люди ходити взад-вперед, це все ок. Супер, дякую, клас.
Это мне.
Да, окей. Синка. А чий це номер? Окей. Валентина Росина, не пам'ятаєш?
Проведем воспитательную.
Да. And new generation, he knows, like, you know. Okay, let's go. So, Simon. Yeah, hello.
Hello.
So, tell us, how did you end up in motorcycling journalism and all this?
Kind of by accident.
By accident.
Yeah. So my family have always been involved in motorbike racing, but in proper motorbike racing, road racing, like the Isle of Man TT.
Yeah.
So that's my history. That's where my background comes from. My mum's uncle ran a race team, and Joey Dunlop's brother Robert raced for them for the longest time, for like 20 years. So I grew up around the Dunlop family, who are like the kings of road racing. And then I started going racing as well. A friend of ours started to race, so I went at the weekends as his like pit crew. When I was 14, he used to live a little bit further away from us, so the other rider in the team used to come and pick me up. Because he wasn't from Ireland, he didn't know any of the roads, so I was the navigator, and I sat in the truck and told him where to go, and I cooked for the weekend, and I cleaned the bikes and stuff like this. The other rider turned out pretty successfully. He's called Guy Martin. So I spent 2 summers living in a race truck with Guy Martin, which is just the craziest times.
I feel like envy and jealousy growing in me, you know. I didn't know that part.
Yeah, no.
I thought that I knew everything.
There you go.
Okay, go on.
So then I went to university, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I studied forensic science because I thought I wanted to be on CSI, and I realized halfway through my degree that I really didn't. So for the next 2 years, I used my student loan every weekend to go motorbike racing. So I did the absolute minimum amount of university work, and then I went motorbike racing. And I was working as a freelance photographer. I was one of the official photographers for the Isle of Man TT.
This part I know.
For like 4 or 5 years. So I used that. I finished university, and I found a job working for the website of the biggest motorcycle magazine in the UK, Motorcycle News. And because they were one of the clients of the photography agency, so I knew the sports guys, and they found me a job. But it was like writing about street bikes, which is not something I even knew a lot about. But because I had like photo skills, video skills, I could do some writing. I was useful. So I did that for like 9 months. And the sports editor realized that I knew more about racing than anyone else in the office because I'd spent like 15 years in racing. So he stole me to come and be the British Superbike reporter.
Okay, so it's like this in MotoGP. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I did 3 years as British Superbike reporter. The MotoGP reporter left. I applied for the job. They told me on Thursday, hey, you've got the job, and by the way, you fly to Phillip Island for a test on Sunday.
What's not to like?
Well, the bit that's not to like is that I spent 3.5 days flying to Australia and back and was only there for 3 days. And yeah, since then I've worked in MotoGP. I worked for Motorcycle News until the middle of 2019. I left in the middle of 2019 to go and be the press officer for Petronas Yamaha. I did that for 6 months until everyone realized that I had too many opinions to be a press officer. So I went freelance at the start of 2020. I signed up for this super exciting new website called The Race. And we were just about to launch the website, and then COVID happened.
Yeah.
So I spent like 6 months sitting at home, not really working and trying to make it work, but we made it work. And I've been there since.
So actually, you also answered the question why Dorna doesn't like you that much, right?
Dory hate me. It's great. It's like my badge of honor.
And that's why we love you, you know?
I complained. So one of the best compliment I've ever been given by anyone in MotoGP was on Sunday afternoon in Texas. Because I had been posting on social media about the crazy fucking start with Mark running off the grid and the red flag and the stewards not knowing the rules and everything that happened. And I walked into the media center at the end of the day, and I was walking to my desk, and Hervé Poncharal was sitting in the media center, and he went, "Simon, come!" And I was like, "Oh, like I'm in trouble." Because all of the complaining I'd been doing was about the organization in the paddock who run the paddock, because they are the stewards, they are the race control, whatever. And the president of IRTA is Hervé.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man, I'm in so much trouble. And you never like being in trouble with Hervé because he's like your dad in the paddock. So he's never angry with you, he's disappointed in you. And it's really horrible, right? So you never want Hervé angry with you. And he calls me over and he was like, "I've read everything you posted today." And I went, "Oh no."
I did, yeah.
And he went, "I'm glad there was one journalist like you in MotoGP." Thank you, Hervé. Thank you. So yeah, but because of that, Dorna hate me. One of the reasons why I didn't stay at Petronas longer is because Dorna told them to sack me. Because they thought it would push me out of the paddock, and instead it gives me a freelance job at a website that loves me being controversial. So it shows how stupid they are as well.
I don't see you being controversial. Yeah, I like.
They think I'm controversial. I think I'm honest.
What's wrong with me?
Yeah, exactly. I just
Like they and me are having different eyes.
Yeah, but you're not the family who runs the business. And this is the problem with Dorna. When you criticize them, sometimes they take it very personally because it's a family business, so it's hard to criticize them. So, but it is what it is.
But at the same time, we are not criticizing just to criticize them.
No, exactly.
We want them to become better.
There is, look, I have went to every MotoGP race since Valencia 2015.
So Valencia, that was your first.
That was my first race in a row. I've done a few races before that, normally like British Grand Prix and some Spanish races. But I've done every one since Valencia 2015. So I've done like nearly 200 races in a row. I'm the only person in the media center that has done that many races. I don't do that much work, that much travel, because I hate MotoGP. I do it because I love MotoGP. So when I'm criticizing MotoGP, it's because I want MotoGP to be better.
Better, yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
How does it look? You are leaving home, like, during the tests in February, and come home in late November?
Pretty much, yeah. I've already done 30 flights this year.
What Maddy thinks about
And the year on the start.
What Maddy thinks about that?
Well,
Maddy used to do it.
Maddy, yeah, exactly. I think we have the most normal relationship in the paddock because Maddy comes racing as well. So we travel together and it makes it more, the divorce rate in the paddock is huge. Like it really is.
There's still time.
And there
There's still time.
But there are so many people in the paddock who divorce and then marry someone in the paddock.
Yeah.
So I just got a divorce step. Because it's a huge amount of time away from home. It's a huge commitment, and I'm so lucky that I have a wonderful, understanding wife who's been there and done that, so she knows.
If I may, so you got acquainted during that first travel to Australia, no?
No, we met in Barcelona.
I can answer this one.
We met. You're not wearing a microphone, so I'll tell the story.
Okay.
Because it's too good for you. We met in Barcelona 2019 because someone came from Australia to watch the race and was supposed to go home on Saturday night and got super drunk and missed her flight. And we met that night. And then we met again in Phillip Island in 2019.
Yep.
And then COVID happened and we didn't see each other for 2.5 years. And then after COVID, Maddy messaged me being like, okay, so I've booked my flights, I'm coming to Ireland. And she arrived in April 2022, and in December we were married. So we went from being apart for 2.5 years to living in our motorhome together for 6 months of the MotoGP season. And no one died. So like, this is a pretty good sign that
There were
So I really love your podcasts. Where do you get all the data, all these data sets? Do you have like a, I don't know, spreadsheet where you have all this?
No, I have Val, who I work with. You've met Val. Yeah. And Val is like the walking database of MotoGP. So all the data, I just leave to him. He can do all that. So I'm not like, I'm not the best writer in MotoGP. I'm not the best at talking to camera. I'm not the best at, like, remembering things. I use Wikipedia way more than I should. But what I am good at is making connections with people
Yes.
and talking to people.
Network.
So exactly. So my skill is walking up and down the paddock all day, catching people that I know and talking to them and getting information from them and then turning that into stories.
I saw that in Austria.
Yeah.
You're just, Fabio, hello. Oh my God. Oh. I wanted to disappear, you know.
You have to remember, because I was the Petronas press officer, I worked with Fabio for 6 months. So Quartararo and I are like, yeah, he's one of the ones I know best. In a good way and a bad way, because when you spend 6 months working with someone, you learn a lot about them that sometimes you don't need to know. we left the circuit one night in Aragon. We were driving to Barcelona to fly to the next race on Sunday night, and we all left together in the car park. Fabio was going home to Andorra because it's only like a 3-hour drive, and I was driving to Barcelona with Johan Stigefeld, the team boss. So we all got in the car. Fabio got in his car. He drove off. We got in our car. We drove off like 10 minutes after, and as we were leaving the circuit, we saw Fabio going back towards the track. And Stiggy texted him being like, "Did we just meet you? Did you forget something?" And he replied with a message that just said, "Tinder."
Oh. Actually, I thought that
You learn a lot about people.
I thought this story will end like Fabio run out of fuel, because that's
No.
what he often does on Instagram.
No one ever runs out of fuel leaving Aragon. Because when you get about 15 minutes in the circuit, there's a fuel station that is owned by Alex Rins. So everyone stops at Rins's fuel station. But the last night we stopped at it, there was like 6 bikers. And you know what it's like when you stop on a bike to fuel and you have to take off your gloves and your helmet and everything. So there was a queue. And we had went to get something to eat. And we had already fueled. And we were like watching all these bikers. And this Lamborghini SUV pulls in, and you can see the driver is like impatient and waiting, and the bikers are waiting, and we can see the windows are tinted, so you can just see like the driver is like agitated and waiting and doesn't want to wait, and eventually he just rolls down the window, goes, "I'm not waiting, see you guys," and drives off, and it's Alex Rins. And his wife Alexandra is in the car being like because motorbikers are all impatient children.
Yes, that's why the race.
Yeah.
Back to data sets still.
Yes.
Okay, where Val gets all the data.
So a lot of it comes from the MotoGP website. If you know
I'm
how
not
to,
satisfied.
you need to know where to look for it. So a lot of the tire information is there. A lot of the information is like hidden inside the data sheets. And actually, I'm not a big fan of AI, but we use ChatGPT a bit because you can load one of the PDFs and say, "Make me a table of the tires that everyone used." So it's good for this.
What
Just
about-
pulling out the information that's there already.
In case you need some retrospective. For example,
Well,
what rider was the best on this track? Or
this just means keeping spreadsheets.
yeah, okay.
And having like there is oh man, I can't remember the name of it. There is a database that you can pay for that has a lot of historical MotoGP and F1 results. But I can't remember the name of it. It's owned by Autosport, the English magazine. And some of the stuff comes from it. And then also we get a book every year that we call the Bible, because it looks like a little Bible, and it has every MotoGP result since 1949. So everyone carries a copy of that as well, and sometimes you use
And
that.
it's wrong. It's wrong every year. Jack Magazine's are wrong every year. They rip them off. They still rip them off. I'm still angry about it.
There's this whole debate about Agostini, about how many Grand Prix wins he has, because he won.
What side are you? Because I know what you're talking about.
In every there was a 750 class for like 1.5 years, and he won some races in it, and no one can decide if it was a Grand Prix class or not.
It was a GP class.
I feel strongly about this.
It's like when they say, "Oh, the Isle of Man isn't Grand Prix racing." It's like, it is. It's the original Grand Prix racing. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this.
I think that Giacomo Agostini's record should not be considered, because like he was racing simultaneously in several classes.
Yeah.
It's like if, for example, Espargaro would take part in 1 year in Moto3, Moto2, and MotoGP, and I'm 3-time world champion in 1 year.
Well, I mean,
So
if
the only rider
if Zarco wins Suzuka and then the other three,
Suzuka's not a go.
yeah, they'll got a world championship in that.
The only rider I can imagine doing more than one class, if they allowed him at any point in the time I've worked in MotoGP, is Tito Rabat.
Why?
Because Tito is both weird and loves riding motorbikes.
Yeah, okay.
So Tito used to live. There's a circuit in the south of Spain called Almeria that a lot of the guys use for testing, and Tito used to live in pit box number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Not he stayed there sometimes. It was his house in the garage, and he used the paddock showers. He had a bed, and he had a Moto2 bike. This was when he was racing in Moto2. He had a Moto2 Calyx that. We would go testing in British Superbikes. You would go on track at 10 a.m. and do 4 hours until lunch and stop for 1 hour and then do 4 hours at the end and stop for the end of the day. Tito would do 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour at lunch and 1 hour in the afternoon whenever everyone else wasn't. And at the end of the second season, the bike was starting to feel weird to him. So his crew chief, Pete, said, put it in the van, bring it to the next race in Spain and I'll have a look. So they brought it out of the van. And Pete walked up to it, he looked at it, and he went, yeah, that's not my problem, and turned and walked away. Because it turns out that Moto2 Calyxes are not designed to do 15,000 kilometers a year without being serviced. And the frame was cracked, the swing arm was cracked, the linkage was about to break. Because Tito just rode his motorbike. So if there was anyone who would do more than one class in a year, it's Tito.
About your ability to network.
Mm-hmm.
I totally loved your interview with Dan Rossamondo.
Okay.
And I listened 3 times. I quoted it on my website, and I wonder how did you manage to reach Dan Rossamondo?
So this is another reason why this all goes back to Dorna not liking me a little bit. Whenever Dan Rossamondo got the job as chief commercial officer, I ran a story and named him 10 days before Dorna announced it. Because I was able to figured out who it was. Because we'd heard some rumors, I put them all together, and I was like, oh, it's this guy. He's going to be our new chief commercial officer, and we ran the story. So we arrived to the press conference in Texas where they announced him. I'd never met him before. They'd announced him on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, he came into the press conference with Carmelo Spalletta, who hates me, Carlos Espalleta, who hates me, and Dan. And I put my hand up, said, can I ask a question? And I went to ask the question, and Dan went, hey, Simon. He's going to already read the story and followed me on Twitter. So
insult to the injury.
Exactly. So since then, we've always had a pretty good relationship. So I'm lucky. But I think it's because the way that I write about MotoGP sometimes is a little bit different. We talk a lot about the business side of it. And not just I don't care what tires someone uses to win it.
Yes.
I don't care.
Yes.
The black and round, that's all that matters. So I'd much rather write about why there's not going to be 2 races in America next year, or why MotoGP keeps trying to go to Hungary and it keeps failing, or the business stories as well. And I think Dan saw that, so he's been pretty helpful for me, and he's done things like the interview in London, and
that's what I wanted to know about the US.
Yeah.
And why? What's wrong with matching MotoGP and the US?
Dorna can't tell stories.
Yes.
That's the problem. Dorna are really bad storytellers. And that's I'm sure some of you guys are Formula One fans, and I'm sure that some of you like Liberty and some of you hate Liberty. But for me, Liberty have said they're going to come into MotoGP, and the only thing they want to change is the marketing and the communications. And that's the thing that Dorna is really, really bad at. So it can only help. They don't want to touch the sporting side of it. And I think with the new rules, they don't need to. So hopefully they can
the sport is beautiful.
The sport is amazing, and we just need more people to see that.
Yeah.
And Dorna are really, really bad at it. Last weekend's race was the first race in I don't know how long that we saw racers on TV who weren't Marc Marquez. because they just follow Mark with the camera all the time, and I hate it because there's so many better stories. So I hope that changes.
But okay, still had something changed since then or some other appeared.
No, he's done a lot of work behind the scenes, but it's been to prepare for Liberty.
Oh,
I think that's the rebrand, the new logo and everything, which I know lots of people didn't like.
it's only a logo.
But it's only a logo. But it makes sense when people I speak to who do things like graphic design explain that it's so that you can shrink down the logo to put it on the corner of the screen on your phone. And it still looks like the same logo, so that because people watch on their screens, and so there's all sorts of reasons for it. And Dan has been doing a lot of stuff like that, bringing in new sponsors. Like his big sponsorship thing was the Qatar Airways deal, which is huge because even though it doesn't look it, when you fly 400 tons of cargo around the world, having an airline is pretty easy. It makes life easier. So there's things like that he's done, and it's all to prepare for Liberty, I think.
Because, when I found out that Raimondo joined Dorna, I was like, wow, we will have Laguna Seca again, and all this stuff. We will have 5 American tracks on the calendar and so on and so forth. But still...
The problem is there's only one circuit in America.
Yes.
Yeah, Laguna Seca is too small.
Yes.
Barber is too dangerous. Indianapolis is, I think, a bit too dangerous now as well with how much faster the bikes have got and that the bank with the wall. There's a new circuit being built in Tennessee, Flat Rock, and that's going to be, I think, that will be the next MotoGP circuit, but it's going to be 2 or 3 years. And in the meantime, there's just nowhere else to go.
Why they picked building, creating, constructing track in Brazil, not in the US?
I mean, are they?
Aren't they?
Dorna have signed, since I joined MotoGP, Dorna have signed contracts with 9 different circuits to hold races that have never happened, including in Ukraine, including in Crimea. One in Crimea, one in fucking Russia, 3 in Hungary, 1 in Finland, 1 in Northern Ireland. They keep signing contracts in places that don't have races, and I'm not sure until we land in Brazil. I'm not sure we're going to race in Brazil.
Okay.
So let's see what. Yeah.
I loved Indian track. And
the track was amazing, but the race was difficult. The race was difficult. You know that Dorna told us to use an agency to apply for our visas.
Oh yeah,
and everyone in the paddock paid €250 to apply for our visas. And on the Tuesday of race week, they messaged us and said, apply for tourist visas now because there's no other way you're getting in. And my visa arrived as we arrived at Dublin Airport to get on the flight. My visa arrived. And
even riders had problems with
Mark had the same problem, and I never got my $250 back.
And that's interesting stuff. For example, I wanted to embed a video from MotoGP official YouTube to my website.
Yeah.
And they told me,
no, you can't steal their... No.
But that I'm not stealing,
I know, but they think you are.
They treat me like I'm a pirate, but I'm a PR guy. Free PR.
We asked last year if we could have some video highlights for our YouTube channel. And we spent 3 months doing a deal with them to make it happen. And in the end, they said, you can have 3 minutes per race, but you can't publish the video until Wednesday after the race. And we were like, okay, we agree. So they gave us these highlights and we used them really well, and the channel is growing really big. And the deal was that every video mentioned where you could watch the race in all the big English-speaking countries. So UK, America, Australia. And at the end of the year, they messaged to say, look, we're super happy with the deal. We'll continue as usual for next year. We just need to set up a meeting and discuss some details. We did the meeting with them, and they said, again, everything is perfect. Everything will be exactly the same. We just need to make one little change. Now, for 1 minute of video, it's going to cost €2,500. So we went, cool, thank you for working with us. See you later. Because they're so protective of their videos that... And no one knows why.
Formula One is sharing the
it's going the
NBA.
Way. Yeah, exactly.
Tennis.
Exactly. So Liberty is going to make it better. They have to, because that's what they do in other sports.
So will this deal happen in May?
It sounds like it's going to now.
Yeah.
Which is, I'm surprised, but let's see.
about fitness tests, by the way. Inspired by Qatar
We
race.
do fitness tests.
So maybe you know what this fitness test, for example, for Jorge Martin looked like.
Yeah. Normally, it's really basic things like push-ups. You broke your wrist, you do a push-up. It's completely irrelevant.
Girls from SBK said that they had pretty complete fitness tests. Maybe Maddy can inform us about.
That is not.
No.
Oh, sorry,
Not with us.
I was emailing.
Fitness tests that the girls had to do for World WCR.
Does it hurt when you get your period?
So yeah.
Irina had a crash in the first race, or in the first race weekend. I think it was warm up or something. Anyway, they went and had a look at her helmet. Was fucked. They were like, "You'll be right. Your spare helmet." She was like, "Yeah." She couldn't tell left from right, but she was fine to go and race, despite the fact she very visibly had a concussion. So
I mean, multiple times a rider has crashed. The team have put out a statement saying that they were concussed. I have posted to say concussed riders aren't allowed to race. And then the team changes the press release to say contused instead of concussed. And then the rider gets past fit. Like that 3 times that's happened.
Yeah.
Once with a rider who was unconscious. Once with a rider who couldn't finish, who got back on the bike and fell off because he couldn't finish. And once with a rider who turned up to his media debrief like he was drunk, like slurring his words with a huge bruise in his head. It's like they're a huge blind spot, passing on fit riders.
So actually, we can say that Jorge Martin basically had to do some push-ups.
Yeah, and that's
squats. I don't know.
nothing really relevant.
and they make you do this. They make you do strength tests.
Like you have to squeeze a ball to prove that.
No, you squeeze the doctor's hand.
Okay.
And just go like that. That's it.
It's like
And-
Jorge's hand was not bent in this way.
Yeah.
He
And
only
remember, the doctor who does the fitness test works for a company who sponsors the championship. And whose hospital treats all the riders. So every time one of his riders comes back earlier than they should, it makes his hospital look good.
Have you seen this movie based on a true story about NFL football players?
Yes.
Concussion.
Yeah.
Kind of 2 years ago, I
Yeah,
watched it,
yeah.
and I applied this experience to MotoGP, and I realized how bad the situation.
Oh, it's going to be really bad. We're not there yet, but it's going to come. And I think that airbags have made it worse.
Because guys relax, they know that they can make more mistakes.
Not even this. In 15 years ago, you crashed, you concussed, you hit your head so you were concussed, and you broke your collarbone.
Yes.
So you spent 1 week at home waiting on your collarbone to heal. Now you crash, the airbag inflates, you don't break your collarbone, but you still hit your head and you're concussed, and you ride the next session.
But you see my point.
Yeah.
Safety is higher.
Yeah.
And guys feel like they can make more mistakes.
Yeah. And they get away with the mistakes they make because of the, and concussion is not like a broken bone. So it's harder to, it's been really telling that Mark, every time anyone gets injured now, Mark says, "Hey, calm down, don't rush back." Because he had to experience it to understand it.
He knows.
He knows now. But he was the guy that rushed back in the first place. So it took his experience for him to learn it.
Okay, how do you think? Was Martin in a hurry? I think that
he shouldn't have been racing last weekend.
Paris.
Yeah, he shouldn't have been racing last weekend.
Yeah.
And the mistake that he made in the race, the crash, I mean, obviously it was worse because DJ hit him.
Yes.
And that's what did the damage. But the mistake that he made was a pretty basic mistake. Yeah. And I think when you're tired, fatigued, in pain, it's easier to make those mistakes. And he obviously was all those things.
Painkillers stopped working in the middle of the race.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he told us on Friday he didn't know if he was going to race on Sunday. He was in so much pain. So
yeah, that's sick. Like, how did he say? Like, he did only 2 laps.
Yeah.
In the afternoon, he did 4 laps. That's funny. Yeah. 4 laps. Okay, come on, guys. Is Dorna going to do something about this concussion issue?
Not until someone dies.
It's not Dorna's problem. Ultimately, it's the other issue.
It's Dorna and the FIM. Yeah. Both are responsible, and both are not paying attention to it. The care they give riders is pretty poor. Full stop. especially the care that they give riders' mental health is really, really bad. Like, I know people who have hit other riders and left them really, really seriously hurt, and there is no mental health care in the paddock. You just get put back in the bike and sent out again.
Like ДжіДжі as normal.
Like ДжіДжі or worse. You know, and there's no care for them. Because
he had seen some stuff.
Exactly. But riders to Dorna are just replaceable, especially in the lower classes.
Oh.
They're something to use and dispose of. And the weird thing is, if they were better at telling stories and people cared more,
they're afraid to.
Then it's harder to do this. Exactly. So it kind of solves the problem, but we're not there yet.
They're afraid to tell stories.
Yeah.
I think that Dovizioso was good at telling stories.
Pecco's documentary at the minute, if you haven't watched it, the new documentary that Pecco is doing is probably the best MotoGP documentary I've seen. And he's doing it during this season, which most people only do it at the end of the year, but he's already posted the first episode about the first two races, which is super cool. Because he understands. He understands now that Dorna is not going to tell his story for him. And now his teammate is Marc Marquez, so all of the attention is on Marc, so he has to do something to tell his own story.
Still, I want to get back to Qatar. I wonder, what was your opinion? Where Zarco's pace came from?
The Honda's getting better. The Honda is really improving. I think we saw in the first four races that the Honda and the Yamaha for me, they're kind of where Ducati was in like 2015 or 2016, where it's not fast enough to win every race, but at some circuits on some weekends it can be really good. And Zarco is super, super motivated at the minute. He really wants a 2-year contract to stay with Honda, and some people inside Honda don't want him to have one.
Inside Dorna?
Inside Honda.
Inside Honda?
Yes. One person in particular doesn't want it to happen. So he knows that he has to perform to show Japan that he deserves the 2-year contract.
He deserves it.
He does deserve it. Of course he does.
You know why I'm asking? Because constantly when he was in Ducati,
Yeah. Either way works for me.
He was always showing speed. And as far as I remember, Ducati was testing some stuff.
Yeah, he did a lot of development work at Ducati.
So maybe something like that is happening at Honda.
There is this as well, yeah. Because I mean, Mir has only rode a Honda and a Suzuki. Marini has only rode a Honda and a Ducati. Chantra has only rode a Honda for 4 races. Zarco has raced a Yamaha, raced a Ducati, raced a Honda before this Honda because he did some races at LCR replacing Taka. He tested a Suzuki before he was even a MotoGP rider. So he's rode KTM. So he's rode nearly every other bike. So he comes with so much knowledge. He's such a wise guy now compared to what he was when he was at KTM. I think Honda know that, especially the Honda guys in Japan, know how useful he is to try and fix the bike.
Okay, we are done with Zarco. What about Vinius?
Someone sent me a tweet on Sunday, and it was the best description of Maverick that I've ever heard. They said that for 45 minutes a year, Maverick Viniales is the best motorcyclist. And it's exactly, and you never know when it's going to come. Last year it was Texas, this year Qatar. He's going to be the first person to win a MotoGP race with 4 different bikes, and then he's going to retire happy. and it can come at any time.
He keeps giving me hope in me,
No, don't do that.
Yes.
Don't do that.
but again, the problem is that I can't bet on him.
Yeah.
At the same time, I can't bet against him. And oh my God.
He's
If I ask you, will Viniales win this year?
I think probably. Probably. He'll win before his KTM contract ends. He'll win at some point in the next 2 years. But like he should have been on the podium last week in tire pressures. So he finished the race second last weekend. It is completely possible that he finishes the race at Jerez in 17 with the exact same bike and nothing changing because it's just Maverick. He's a special guy.
Why this tire pressure decision took so long?
because the
You're
system,
tired of this question?
because the system for doing it is shit. it's the whole thing is rubbish.
But the team knows.
Well, we
Tire
knew.
pressure every lap.
Yeah, but Maverick didn't care. Maverick was getting a warning in his dash, and Maverick didn't care because he was going to finish on the podium, and he got to stand on the podium and spray the not Prosecco because we were in our country and whatever. He got his moment. Everyone was happy, and he didn't care if he got disqualified or P16. It's basically disqualified.
Yeah.
So he took his moment. Why not? And the team just never expected him to lead the race. That was why the pressure crashed in the first place. So no one was trying to cheat. It's just the way the rules are right now.
Yeah. The team thought that he will be somewhere in the middle.
I mean, it's Maverick. He could have been P17. Because let's be honest, the traditional Maverick recently has been qualified quite well and then come out of the first corner in like 17.
But this time in Qatar, everything went perfect.
Yeah.
He had a perfect start where he does not so often. And that could have been even a better story.
Yeah.
So, and this penalty, 16 seconds, isn't it too harsh?
I mean, it's better than disqualifying.
It used to be
Which it used to be.
disqualification, yeah.
And I get the reason for it being so harsh because the consequence of the pressure being too low could be so bad.
Like tire explosion.
When the tire falls off the rim. Falls off
Have
the
you
wheel.
ever seen this?
Not in MotoGP, but I have seen it in other places. Yeah. And it's bad.
Sure.
You know,
yeah.
so I understand why that. And the problem is, if you didn't penalise them and only give them a warning, then someone would try to go a little bit lower the next time. And a little bit lower the next time. People are always trying to push how much they can get away with, so they have to be strict on certain things. Like the disqualification for Ogura for using the wrong software. Again, it's the same thing. They made a mistake, and he got disqualified because of it. But if they hadn't disqualified him, and the new software was slightly better, then someone else would have tried to use the new software and get away with it.
So it's like doping.
Exactly. People are always pushing it. The reason that we're in this mess is all because of the teams and the riders not wanting to test the new tyre. And that's the bit that frustrates me. Like, the new tyre is ready, we just don't have enough data on it to like pick compounds for every circuit, and that's because they won't test it.
You know, when I came to Austria, here and there, guys, like journalists and me, was saying, "Oh, Michelin, blah blah blah, so bad. They don't want to make a better tire." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I wrote to you, like, Simon, why aren't they making a better tire? And you opened my eyes.
The tyre is ready.
They just don't want to test it.
Yeah.
But okay, at the
We
same time,
need to do what Formula One does, where they have Pirelli tyre test days, where you have to do what Pirelli tells you. And actually, I spent last weekend with a friend of mine who works in Formula One, and she says that in some free practice sessions, they'll get told you're testing a tyre today, and you will be given a tyre, and you don't even know what compound it is. But you have to go out and do 10 laps on it, and you don't get the data from the tyre that you would normally get from Pirelli. They keep it. And it's just to test things. And we need to do something like that. Imagine if we used 15 minutes of free practice on a first thing on Friday morning to test the new tyre. Last year, we would have the tyre already this year. So they need to do something like that. The good thing is, with the switch to Pirelli, it's going to have to happen anyway. And the new bikes, so...
not to make a separate test, to pay for the track and all this stuff.
Exactly, there's ways to do it. There's ways to do it.
So and you opened my eyes, and I was like, okay, so now here we are. Michelin is not to be blamed, but I want to blame somebody, of course. And I started to blame like ДжіДжі Далінью, you know,
blame ДжіДжі. Right device is an arrow. Blame ДжіДжі.
Yes.
But also, this is another thing that MotoGP does wrong compared to Formula One. The rules in Formula One, if you'd brought like the right head device in Formula One, which Mercedes kind of did a few years ago, the rule is if you bring something new, you can use it for that season, and they ban it at the end of the year. So imagine if Ducati had banned if MotoGP had banned the right-head devices at the end of the first season, Ducati had brought them. So Ducati gets one season that they get the benefit from it, and everyone says, "Well done, ДжіДжі, you invented something great." And then at the end of the year, it goes away. And instead of we've had to wait like 5 years to get rid of them at the end of more than 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I think the first time we saw it was 2017. and we have to wait until 2027. So we've had 10 years of these things fucking up the sport.
It looks like the Ducati are in good relationships with Dorna.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of power, but I think that's natural. I think that they Dorna, to one extent, Dorna, they kind of saved Dorna. Because MotoGP would be really, really terrible if there was only 2 Ducatis in the grid instead of 8 like a few years ago. They added a lot of numbers to the grid when we needed it. Or even at the end of the open class in like 2016 or 2017, if there hadn't been all those old Ducatis in the grid filling it out, it would have been pretty small grids. So they did a lot to help MotoGP. And also because they started giving factory bikes to Pramac, now LCR gets factory bikes. Now Tech 3 gets factory bikes. So they have done a lot of good for the sport as well by just being the guys that are exactly. Yeah, exactly. So there's good and there's bad. But I don't think that there's some conspiracy where Dorna does a lot to help them or anything like that. I think they spend a lot of money.
You know, this question comes from, I sometimes play PS5, this new MotoGP game. We keep getting like ДжіДжі Далінью and Patterson, but we don't see Ciccinello and other guys, you know, we don't see Poncharad, we see only Ducati management.
Okay.
That's why
I've never seen that. Right. Nah, I don't think so. Maybe it is something like.
I can answer that question.
Go on.
They actually don't want to be in the game, but Ducati pay a lot of money to put their top 3 inside the game because it sells more motorcycles. So that when, as a consumer, you're more likely to recognise a Ducati before you recognise a Yamaha, and the reason for it is there's not really anyone interesting at Yamaha.
It was.
But ДжіДжі is interesting. Chibati is interesting. All of these people have their own stories, and Ducati have done a very good job at selling motorcycle racing to an average consumer by these stories, which is why they're in the game. And Ciccinello, Hervé, first you have to get the rights to use their image, which they won't sign over to do because they're not celebrities, they race motorcycles. And on top of that, they don't see the value because they're not a manufacturer, Ducati is.
Actually, this space is the proof to your words. It's full of stuff with
Exactly. Can you name the technical bosses from the other manufacturers?
One.
ДжіДжі is has become Ducati to an extent. But there's no other chief engineer now who does a Monday blog on the factory website. You know, they understand this. So, and LinkedIn. He posts a lot on LinkedIn. Weirdly. Which is, it's because he's an engineer. They're weird.
I think he feels that he's about to get sacked.
He's not going to get sacked. He's not going to get sacked. He runs a dictatorship. No, really. There is no one left in Ducati racing who's not one of ДжіДжі's people.
That includes the World Superbike.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why Paolo Ciabatti's not there anymore. Because he didn't agree with ДжіДжі's way of doing things. It's why Frankie Carcetti is not Mark Marquez's crew chief.
Guys, I want to get involved.
Question about KTM design, because at the start of the season they had completely identical livers. Then they brought this like sun with the bulls for Tech 3, and now they got this sun with the bulls for both teams.
Yeah. I have no idea. KTM, so we've been talking about this a little bit, right? KTM are the worst in MotoGP at marketing and communications. They're press officers. The job of a press officer in any world is to make journalists like you, and KTM love making journalists hate them. They're so bad at it.
Actually. And it's because Red Bull have stepped in to save Tech 3 as well to a certain degree, because KTM's, again, back to the consumer, because KTM are not only really bad at marketing, but really bad at selling motorcycles, which is kind of the key principle.
And building them from the cams.
What Red Bull have done is they've subsidised part of their sponsorship directly to Tech 3, and that deal was, if you're going to run a KTM, it will look identical to the factory team. Because what it actually allows Red Bull to do and KTM as a manufacturer is be seen as a more idyllic brand. So even though they're not a factory team per se, seen in the same light, seen in the same way, it, as a consumer, it starts to relate your relatability to them. So you start to like them more because they're not different, they're uniform. It's a KTM. And you're not talking about Tech 3. You ask the question is, but why do all the KTMs look the same? And it's actually achieving its goal by doing that.
See, all marketing questions come out. I'm more talented by.
But it's weird that KTM recently, like not recently, 5 years ago, changed their approach to marketing.
Yeah. So they went really big. What KTM wanted to do was be like Monster Energy. Red Bull as a media house, they don't actually sell soft drinks. Red Bull sell media, and they're really good at it. But they're a little bit Austrian, so they're not like, and you know, it's cool. It's really cool shit. But then you see Monster, okay, and Monster is basically a business that is adult teenagers with money. It's like, you're covered from head to toe in tattoos, you drink Monster, you look cool, and you definitely get laid. Like, that's what you think of.
Everyone inside Monster, or inside KTM, if they didn't work for KTM, they would do PR for someone else. Everyone inside Monster, if they didn't work for Monster, they would be smoking weed somewhere.
Exactly.
We know a lot of people at both companies, and you know.
So looking back 5 years ago, Red Bull wanted to sort of emulate this youth feeling that is associated with Monster, but the difference is where Monster gets that from is their skate history. They're actually a skate brand. Red Bull is not. Red Bull is very Austrian. There is no other way to describe Red Bull. So actually that campaign didn't work. They're really good at producing media, and they would have been better 5 years ago to stick with their roots. And that's why Monster's so successful at what they do, because they don't change their brand to fit an ideal. They are the ideal. So now you've got this recovery period with Red Bull in motorcycling specifically. And if you look at the KTMs in the GP class, and you also look at who Red Bull sponsors in Moto2 and Moto3, all the bikes look exactly the same. And that's all done with purpose. It's really trying to own that consumer space for a small bike, a big bike, whatever it might be. And they're just not interesting. It sounds horrible because Red Bull is interesting. Unfortunately, KTM is also an Austrian brand. And they have to align themselves, which is why they're their title sponsor. But it's not done anything for them. Red Bull actually makes more money out of sponsoring athletes like Marc Marquez and Jack Miller, who actually they've both lost in the last 6 months. But it's better for their brand to show human stories than it is to show development stories. Whereas Monster, they don't really care about the development as long as the person riding it is a bit twisted. It works every time for their brand. Because most people don't actually like Jack Miller on a personal level, but he's epic. He's such an idiot, and he fits Monster really well, which is why he's moved over to them this year.
Jack turned up to his media debrief last week in Qatar, and we'd been waiting on someone else to finish theirs in Spanish, and he sat down and was like, well, I'm not starting in Spanish, I only speak one language. And then he went, no, that's not true, I speak two, I speak fluent bullshit. That's Jack.
Yeah.
Last year, I bought a KTM.
But look at the bright side. In 6 months, KTM is going to be an Indian company, not an Austrian company.
Yeah.
My KTM is already assembled in China. So.
Yeah.
I mean,
By CF Moto.
yeah.
That sponsored David Alonso's Moto2.
And this is the thing, the manufacturer of the bike, as a consumer, I always think German, Austrian manufacturing is top quality. Whether it's a car or a motorcycle, you associate that engineering
Because of the history.
Absolutely. KTM, they've aligned themselves with Red Bull, which makes sense, but it's done nothing for their brand. They've not told the consumer story about the height of engineering in Austria, which is a real loss.
And apparently the CF Moto factory is amazing. Apparently, it makes anything in Austria looks like old-fashioned because it's overbought, it's old. Because Jake Dixon went with the Aspartame, so I don't know. I've seen some photos inside it. We're not allowed to publish.
Okay, aside from, for example, KTM in MotoGP, if you look at the streets of Kyiv, it is tough with KTM.
Yes.
But I think because of its price,
Okay.
it's really got cheaper because it's
Well, I mean,
assembled
they have 260,000 motorcycles to sell at the minute as well that they've already built. So the price is only going to keep going down.
Yeah.
Also, they need a lot of spare camshafts.
Yeah, that too. Has yours blown up yet?
No. I totally love
Optimist.
Hello. I wanted to ask one technical question about the whole shot device. So many years before, all MotoGP bikes use this device, but there are no manufacturers that produce it for the usual track riders. And every tuning that used in MotoGP usually goes to the like a tuning for the usual bikes in Superbike Championships. I wanted to ask you, why does no one produce whole shot devices?
I'm surprised that I'm not surprised that no manufacturer fits them to their bike, because they're pretty complicated. And also, if you look at the probably 50% of the MotoGP bikes that break down right now is because of the whole shot device failing, because they're so complicated and they're always trying to make them lighter. Like the first one that Ducati brought was 2.5 kilos, and now it's only 1 kilo. But so everything is thinner, everything is lighter, and they break a lot. I'm really surprised that no one has built ones that you can fit to your own bike, though. That to me is really strange. But I think it's probably because the risk of it failing is so big. Because it's like your suspension linkage breaking and the bike folds in two. And that's what we see all the time with MotoGP bikes. So I guess that's why maybe it's like risk, insurance, changing something so important in the bike. But I'm surprised that no one in America has not built one where it's a bit easier to do things like this, has not built one you can fit to your own machine. Because the engineering it's difficult to make it reliable, but it's not super complicated when you see what it actually looks like. Especially the old, big, heavy ones were pretty basic. Yeah,
and it's very strange because I think in 2027 there will be no whole shot devices in MotoGP. And we didn't
Good news.
So I probably have one question for Sam and one for Maddy. I'm sorry. So firstly, probably what Aprilia gonna do? Obviously Sal gonna come back, and best recovery for Jorge. And the second one is it's also kind of comparing what Liberty done to F1 and what Dorna is doing now. So about the age of the audience, I think, and the who is this promoted to? Because F1 became really, really juvenile. I think. And for example, the problem for the Iron Face that it's really it feels like it made for the older one audience, and as well, for example, it's not heavily promoted on TikTok as well, but so short form content, so it's really old fashioned. And for example, I think Yamaha tried to do something more modern with their, for example, presentation of the bikes. I personally think it was genius. I really liked it, but I then looked the statistics and it's so low. Yamaha got 800 of likes on this video, and this kind of supporting. So the question is, if it's better to, it's obviously better to for the wider audience, but is it gonna happen? How is it?
Do you want to go?
I'll go first. I mean, it's easy what Aprilia have to do. They have to lock Jorge Martin in a prison cell until he starts getting hurt, right? They just have to lock him away until he's fit. They need him to see where the bike is. They need a measure of the bike, because right now I think Bez is a little bit lost. But Agura, I know. Don't worry, Maddy loves Bez as well. They have a very,
we really love Bez.
He has a massive crush on her. But Agura is showing us that the bike is really good. It seems. So
it's unstable.
Yeah, it is. But that's because of the huge amount of aerodynamics that they have at the side of it. And it's balance, I think. The problem is balance. The bike used to be super stable. Then they made it really good at cornering, and now it's less stable during the corners. and they have to reduce that a little bit, but the problem is with the aerodynamics freeze, that they can only do that once per season. So they need to wait until, well, there's going to be a lot of new stuff come at the Jerez test on Monday after the race, and that will probably, they'll try some new aerodynamics there with the race riders. But there's another thing that all the teams are thinking about at the minute. So Ducati are status 1 in the concessions, Aprilia and KTM are status B, and Honda and Yamaha are status C. With how many points they've scored at the minute, after the summer break, Ducati are in Group 1, in Group A, and everyone else is in Group D. And that means you can bring 2 aero upgrades a year. So I think Aprilia will try something soon to see if it works, knowing that they can do another one later in the year as well. So, let me come to you, let Maddy answer the second one, and I'll come back to you.
Right, so ultimately the issue you've got is motorcycle racing as a whole, and I think most people in this room will know it, will kind of agree with it, and will recognise it. Between 1979 and 2011, what do you think of when you think of motorcycle racing? Not motorcycle manufacturers, racing. I can tell you what I think of. Hot Rizzler girls. I think of Suzuki. I think of motorcycles with girls with absolutely no clothes on. The marketing message that was sold to consumers, specifically men.
But if you
If you get this bike, you can have a hot chick like this. Everybody in this room knows that's a fact. That was the marketing message, right? You come around to 2025, you've got the launch of the Women's World Championship, which they executed absolutely horrifically. I can say that. I ran a
as
team.
F1 Academy.
Correct.
So no, F1 Academy
F1
looks like F1 compared to World Europe CR.
Right. F1 Academy has come an incredibly long way. But the problem that you have with storytelling and reaching audiences and all of these things is that what Dorna have done for the last 30 years is speak to 50% of the population. And now they're realising that there's actually 100% population they could be speaking to, and they have no idea how to do that. So they've relied on hot girls, Valentino Rossi, sometimes Marc Marquez when he's, getting annoyed at Valentino Rossi, and Valencia 2015. That's all they had to talk about. So looking towards the future and what Liberty have to do, what they're actually quite good at, is what we're doing right now, which is talking to people like you, because you're under 25 years old. Okay, you are different in terms of the audience, the viewing audience, where you come from in the world. These are not audiences that we've actually historically sold to. Historically, it's been
Spain, Italy,
and the United States,
UK, Australia.
and Australia. But the largest audience in the world, viewing-wise, is actually Southeast Asia, and they have the poorest access to the sport. Yet they are the most hardcore fans. Liberty are really, really, really good at meeting you at your level and saying, hey, here's a paddock pass, film everything this weekend and post it on our official account. So they're actually really good at creating in-house media through things like influencers. They turn absolutely nobodies into somebodies. It's become juvenile, yes, but the reality is if you are 67-year-old Gerald from Derby in the United Kingdom, you're always going to consume Formula One on Sky with, what's that wanker's name?
There's so many.
Martin Brundle. Best of times. So if you're 67-year-old Gerald and you've watched Formula One your entire life on Sky or TNT or whatever it's called now in the UK, or you rely on Susie Perry because she's been on your television screen for 40 years or 30 years, about 25 years actually. You will continue to consume media in that way. That's why we were saying about the logo earlier. The logo changing isn't for you, it's for people who don't know what it is. It's to be instantly recognisable, come here, play with us, watch this, which is why MotoGP even now is a little bit lost in its marketing because it can't rely on Valentino Rossi, can't rely on hot girls with no clothes on because cigarettes and alcohol aren't allowed to be on motorcycles anymore like they used to.
Can't believe Yamaha is the previous one.
And on top of that, you actually have really interesting stories at the moment. Marc Marquez, again, overall, interesting dude, interesting story. Pecco, interesting story. Can you imagine what it's like to be Fabio right now? 4 seasons without a championship win. I want to die. Zarco, top Honda came from Agura, out of nowhere. There's so many good stories, and actually, not only good stories, but the bad stories need to be told too. You know, I
Bad stories are better sometimes.
Do you know what story we don't know that I would have loved to hear about the last 2 years? Taka Nakagami. Can you imagine being like the workhorse for Honda week in, week out, testing parts for this shitty factory in Alberta, Pugh, just constantly being a pain in your ass? It's a good story. I don't know anything about it, do you? And he's huge in Japan, our largest audience. And he was the only Japanese rider in the series, and it was a story that went completely unheard. And that's what they do badly, and that's actually what Liberty do really well. As for the Yamaha launch, it is awesome. The other thing that Dorna do really, really badly is they depend on teams to market for them.
Yeah.
And I can say this from experience, having given them 50,000 euros and not getting much back for it. Dorna's sole job is not rules. It's not safety, health and well-being. Their sole job is actually promotion. They are a promoter. They hold the rights to the series. They are so shit at it, it's not funny. So much so that the championship I competed in last year, Women's World Championship, if you go and look at their official page right now, under every tweet there's a question going, where's Segment Racing? The reason why is we actually did things like posted race results and sent press releases and spoke to our audience. Dorna don't do that very well. They depend on teams to do it, which, yes, makes sense. It's a team's job. But as a promoter, it's your job to pick up the team's work and send it even further. They're under-resourced to do it. They underpay their staff because they'll tell you as an 18, 19, 20-year-old, but it's a privilege. You know what is a privilege? Getting paid. So that's ultimately the issue that they have. And Liberty will change that because with Liberty becomes sponsorship, becomes endorsement, becomes a sound understanding of how business actually works and what people want to see, which is to feel included and be seen. So.
Someone told me recently that when Liberty bought Formula One, the marketing department had 4 staff, and the first thing they did was hire another 160. That's what MotoGP needs as well. And then all the teams need to be told that they have to hire more staff to do the marketing side.
And Maddy, you mentioned, you mentioned like selling MotoGP to new audiences. Do you know, maybe Simon told you, you can't buy video pass from Ukraine.
I know.
I can't buy tickets from Ukraine.
I know. And the issue is, you know, Ukraine's a whole kettle of fish in itself at the moment for multiple reasons, which we're all aware of. But outside of that, if you look globally, for example, in the UK, TNT Sports, previously BT Sport, Susie Perry and the lot, now own all motorcycle racing in the UK, from domestic championships to World Superbike to MotoGP. What Dorna have failed to capitalise on is that between 2010 and 2018, pay-per-view or like an app subscription became really, really popular. So people stopped buying cable television. Now there's 20 cable apps that you can access at any time. So if you've got Netflix and all these other apps, it actually costs you more than having cable. And the rest of the world is starting to go back to free to view to some degree with advertising, ads. If you're going to pay for ads anyway, you might as well watch it for free on television. Dorna have kind of failed at that continentally. Continentally. The only thing that's free to watch in the UK as far as motorcycle racing goes now is the sprint race on a Saturday, an hour after the race. And road racing. Racing forever. But that's an issue that they have, and that will change with Liberty as well. Liberty have a better content pool share, so they're much better with networks and who they speak to. They're better at maybe not giving you the race for free, but you know what they will give you? An in-depth 7-season behind-the-scenes documentary that you will watch, despite the fact I hate Formula One, but I loved watching Daniel Ricciardo go through this horrible time.
It makes you sound like you hate him.
No, I loved it. I loved Danny Rick, but I was so addicted to watching this story unfold, despite the fact I would never watch a Formula One race. I hate 4 wheels. It's too many. Unless it's my big car and I'm running something over. But anyway, like they will get there. They will improve. But it's still... If the deal with Liberty comes in this year, it will happen within 18 months. by the end of next season, you'll have an interesting series to watch, even if you can't watch the race. And as far as access in Ukraine goes, I don't have all the answers, but Dorna have kicked me out of my account 4 times, and they've also charged me €160 3 times. So, like, but it was an accident.
I had a Moto3 writer messaging me recently, be like, why have I paid twice for my video pass now? So it's, there's problems at every level.
Yeah.
Also, it feels kind of dumb to have a yearly subscription without a monthly option.
Lots of things that Dorna do feel kind of dumb.
A lot of not kinda.
The worst part is there are things they actually do well as well, and it's really hard to like them.
To see them.
They're such dicks. And sometimes they do something great, and you're like, why can't you be like that all the time? It's like the
Like Vіньялеса, you know.
it's Maverick. 14 minutes of the year.
There is even the problem when their broadcast of the race. So I remember that the first time I watched the race here, it was the first race of the season, and basically we just looked at MM93 for the 90% of the race, and you just look at the names changing. I remember I was looking at best names just changing. And even the commentators didn't say. I was just looking at Mark Marcus and Alex Marcus having a great time.
maybe if people like Zarco and Marini and Binder tried a little bit harder and were born in Catalonia as well. But
I think what's difficult about that is no one complained that it was Valentino Rossi.
nobody had social media when it was Valentino Rossi.
Yeah. It's a continuation of that question about concessions. So you told that Ducati now is in Group A and everyone else is in Group D. Is it for real? So last year it was like B was empty, C was Aprilia and KTM,
and D. So everyone, if it remains like it is, everyone will be Group D after the summer break.
Oh,
apart from Ducati, because it's a percentage of how many points the manufacturer has scored compared to the rest. And I think, without double checking, I think it's like 226 for Ducati and 120 for the next at the minute.
wow.
It's huge.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was man, I don't know this year's calendar very well. After I think Sachsenring, when we go to the summer break, it resets, and I think then everyone else drops.
And what do you think? Will Yamaha roll out V4 this season? Or?
Do you know what's really funny? There's loads of videos of the new Yamaha V4 testing in Valencia this week. If you listen to it, it's actually the inline 4, all the videos.
Exactly.
But it does exist. The V4 exists. They've said they will only race it if it's faster than the inline 4. Mm-hmm. So Augusto Fernandez is going to be really, really busy trying to go faster on the new bike than the old bike. But I don't think we'll see it this year. I think it'll be a project to come at the start of next season instead.
Yesterday I posted a story on Instagram, Augusto Fernandez testing new Yamaha. Yeah. And I was like, writing, here is a new voice of Yamaha. Only after that I listened to it. Is it?
No, it's still the old one.
I thought it like deleting this story. Bullshit.
And the exhaust looks the same. It's like not an audio tail, but with the
with the. So I mean, if I were Yamaha, I would allow Augusto to post some videos of him testing the inline 4 and then just say nothing else. Build some suspense, some surprise for us, you know.
Yeah, one more. So let's talk about the website actually.
Okay.
I'm talking like a developer standpoint, and I got your idea. Like, if you want to find something, you need to understand how that's like structurized and developed. So yeah, actually, like I'm wondering, there is like 75 years of races. Different classes, a lot of like tracks which are not already like maintained. When I jump into the website, I see like 22 riders current season, maybe like 30 legends. and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
No Nakagami, for example, no Sparger, like, I don't even know those riders if I just started season from this year.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? They are heroes, but maybe not so well known. Okay, how can I know the like, data, career, statistics, whatever? I can find that, but there is nothing for the end
to show you which way to find it.
Okay, I have like created like a proxy service which grab data from the MotoGP. I have complete backup of the data. So if MotoGP like screwed up with the website, I have a backup. Call me. So why I need to do all those stages just to get the basic things that are placed on Wikipedia? Why don't they highlight those?
Honestly, a lot of the people who work at MotoGP don't like MotoGP.
It's like a fight club.
It's just a job. It's just a job. So many of the guys, especially in Spain, especially in the office, who do the web development, the video pass, all of these systems, they don't actually care that much. So they don't see it from the way that a fan like you sees it. And that makes it really difficult.
That's a tragedy.
It is. It's awful. It's why we still have a little book with all the results and the Wikipedia pages that we rely on. Like, because it's so hard to find information.
Do you remember when they redesigned the website?
Yes.
Was it Oxo or Valve? Someone who, like, Matt Oxley and I, like, if I wasn't married to you, I'd be married to Oxo. But
I wanted to marry him. Like,
he's just beautiful. I just love him so much. Like, you know, when you're at work and you just want to have someone to drink with. Simon's my real husband, but Matt's my work husband. But, like, I remember when they redesigned the website, it was awful and you couldn't find results and all of these things. Actually, you couldn't find results for about 6 weeks, which makes it really difficult when you have 4 races back to back, because we were mid-season 2023. It was ridiculous. And the only person who had a backup of it was Val and Matt. And Skeletor, what's his name? Mark? No, he's the stats man. He's flirty.
Martin Rains.
Martin Rains just like takes.
He has his own databases.
He has his own database, but he was also the only person in the entire motorcycle racing community with said database. So every time any one of us needed a fact, he would be like €20. He made a bomb out of it, but 6 weeks straight. And ultimately it's because they don't like it, they don't know about it, or they don't see things as a consumer sees them. And that's the big deal. And not even consumers, like fans.
Yeah, I mean, like, fans with the knowledge, I mean, the technical knowledge, they could boost the industry. You know, like, the win number, it's like 17 just random characters, and a lot of companies like Carfax, or we have like Autoria in Ukraine, which expose those numbers. They have own databases of car crashes, of car auctions, whatever. Like, it's just open source. It's given to the community. Like, you know the knowledge. I mean, you have the time, just do it.
But also, we talked about how much they protect the video.
Yeah.
And they protect all their knowledge like that. Like, so they don't want anything to be open source.
That's ridiculous.
No, like, still we stole everything.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Trying to protect the video from the YouTube, they just like export the big like root tracker, which has like all the races with a full HD with BD rips, and it's like, okay, you are trying to protect YouTube. Come on, really? You put downloader here is the link. So yeah, I mean,
but to give you an understanding of how much Dorna protect their product. Women's World Championship is free to view. It's the only World Championship that's free to watch on YouTube, right? Everyone's shocked at that because, again, Dorna didn't tell you that. Anyway, first ever round Women's World Championship, live and free on YouTube. This is how good at Dorna is at protecting their product. Me, doing my job as a marketer very well. Watch this race, watch Segment Racing, we're racing, link here, this, that, and the other. Dorna's piracy, anti-piracy software took down their own video from YouTube.
because they set up a new channel for World WCR and didn't approve it from the World Superbike channel, so it saw the footage and said, this is stolen from World Superbike. And it's happened twice.
First to ever live.
It happened to Yamaha as well, with the Blue Cruise.
So, like, this is just... they're nonsensical. There's no answer. Like, they're not even as sensical as Maverick. At least Maverick for 45 minutes turns up. And it is just a lack of passion, really. Because if you're passionate about it and you love it, you'd actually do it justice. And that's the
Anyone who's ever emailed MotoGP Video Pass with a complaint knows how little they care about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both done it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm an artist. Can I paint something for MotoGP? Can I paint a helicopter? I actually have my first project painted MV Agusta F4
Yeah.
here. You will see.
Yeah, we're going to see after.
Yeah, this is the,
Yeah.
Dima, the director of the place. He will not like it, but I want you to see it because he been like waiting to present it, like
He's in the
around.
hospital with a concussion.
Yeah, but
so-
now I don't think he will
He's
kill me.
unfit to be here.
The second project, I have the car Tesla that I'm going to paint,
Nice.
and there's more things like helmets. I have in the queue already to paint.
We had a conversation last night about a plan that we came up with to do some fundraising for the medical supplies that we're raising for Ukraine involving MotoGP. So I'm going to talk to you afterwards
Okay.
because I have a plan that we can tie together and do something really cool.
Okay.
Both to help raise some money and to say thank you to some of the writers who have been helping us. So maybe there's something we can do that uses your art to raise some more money, and we get to donate some of your art to people like Paco Bagnaia and Mark Marquez.
Wow.
So let's talk afterwards.
Wow.
I have a plan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also, the answer is ДжіДжі.
Yeah,
Generally.
ДжіДжі is MotoGP's artist.
Really?
Yeah. He is the guy in MotoGP who is the artist.
Not sure if you remember this, but shortly after the war started here, ДжіДжі debuted a Peace and Love bike. And his helmet was blue and yellow. Was it Doha or
Somewhere.
might have been Magello? Anyway, your answer is ДжіДжі, but he's very much like himself, Pecco, Mark. They're probably the ones that appreciate art. Really, like actually appreciate art for what it is. Pecco doesn't seem like very artistic.
No, he does. He kind of does.
But then he is.
Pecco
Like,
is a chef.
yeah.
That's his passion.
Yeah, but
Rather
for me
than
it's ДжіДжі. Like you can show ДжіДжі a picture that you drew or you painted. Like in the media center, I'm always doodling like little pictures, and he loves to go over my shoulder and be like, do you want to just shadow that a little bit? But like he's very into art and how it makes you feel. I think he'd be a man.
Is Dorna is a Spanish company.
Yeah.
So now I understand why they're so.
Super Spanish.
I think this is the reason why they're so conservative.
Especially in places like Spain, Italy. I find it really interesting when you come to places like Ukraine and there is this misconception around the world of what it's like here. And that's a narrative that's being told through things like film and media throughout the 70s and 80s before things actually change. So there's this misconception about life here. I come here and I'm like, I want to live here. I love it here. There's like, you can do what you want, you can dress how you want, you can be who you want. But if you go to places like Spain and Italy, they're actually still deeply, deeply conservative because their religion not only plays a part in their life, but it plays a part in government, the local government, in festivals, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's normal. But they also have quite an aging population, whereas places like Ukraine have a very young population. Young people are leading the way here in terms of new jobs, digital media, marketing. They're working online, they're working from home, they're determined to do things differently.
Yeah.
Progressive, that's the word. Places like Spain. You don't need to be progressive in Spain, we have Hamon.
I would like to know what Yamaha will do. Just basically, where will they end up? What do you think about that? It's evident that Ducati will top everything,
Yeah.
but second, third place, I'm more interested in.
When you look at the championship standings right now, second, third, fourth, fifth is super close.
Yeah,
Between the
very
other
like
manufacturers.
And Honda pretty has the same amount.
Almost, yeah, it's all super close. I think,
KTM and Yamaha, I think too. They have 43 and
yeah, it's super close. So I think everyone is going to win. Everyone is going to be in the podium this year. Every manufacturer. I mean, we've already seen some of them there.
Yeah.
So I think every manufacturer is going to be super close to the podium, and that for me will make this year pretty boring, and next year pretty boring. But it means that 2027 everyone's going to be super close again.
So I think we have to keep telling ourselves 2027 is going to be awesome. Please let 2027 be awesome.
We need to get back to that point.
Yeah.
There's changes.
The riders all love the new rules because they want to go to this. They want it to be like this. So I think they want post racing again. And Fabio Quartararo wants to win some races. Yeah, lots of people want Fabio to win, but no one wants to win as much as him.
Around same question. Do you think KTM gonna do at least somewhat better than they're doing right now?
It wouldn't be super hard, right? Let's see.
Just hoping for
I think Pedro will deliver something.
Ну, все, глядачі, дякую. Ми завершили, не знаю, на скільки ми наговорили, можливо, 2 години. 1,5 години. Дякую. Підписуйтесь на .GP. Дуже дякую, що слідкуєте. Телеграм, Інстаграм, в Телеграмі найбільше комунікації. Чекаю вас всіх. Дуже рада.